Writing markup with JSX. JSX is a syntax extension for JavaScript that lets you write HTML-like markup inside a JavaScript file. Although there are other ways to write components, most React developers prefer the conciseness of JSX, and most code bases use it. So in this article, you will learn why React mixes markup with rendering logic, how JSX is different from HTML, how to display information with JSX. So first of all, we're gonna create a folder. We are gonna you can go to your desktop or whatever folder you have. I have a folder named React, and what I'm gonna do here is right click, open in terminal, and I'm gonna create a React folder. So it's gonna be with npx like that. React create is gonna be create hyphen React hyphen app, and then the name of my folder. I'm gonna name it test. I'm gonna press enter, and this might take a while, so we're just gonna leave it like that. And in the meantime, we're gonna be reading this. JSX, putting markup into JavaScript. The web has been built on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For many years, web developers kept content in HTML, designing CSS and logic in JavaScript, often in separate files. Content was marked up inside HTML, while the page's logic lived separately in JavaScript. And here we have two files, an HTML file and a JavaScript file. To the left, we have our HTML, so we have our div tag. Inside of that, we're gonna have our paragraph and our form tag. And to the right, we have JavaScript. So here we have three functions: slogin, onClick, and onSubmit. So that is the difference. Now, but as the web became more interactive, logic increasingly determined content. JavaScript was in charge of the HTML. This is why in React, rendering logic and markup live together in the same place, components. So this is where we write our JSX in a folder named components. So let's check out if it is still doing the same. So here, React component, we have the sidebar.js, and we have a function sidebar. We open curly braces, and we're gonna have an if else statement. Inside of the if statement, we have a paragraph. Inside of the else statement, we have a form element. And as you can see, this paragraph it has obviously an starting tag and an ending tag, but the form also has an ending tag for the forward slash. So this is important that we close our tags in JSX. To the right, we have the form.js, that is a React component. So we have the form, we open curly braces, we have two functions here, onClick and onSubmit. Outside of that, we have the form element with the onSubmit function. Inside of that, we have the input element with the onClick function. So that is that. We have those examples, the sidebar and the form. Those are React components. So we already have our folder, our React folder built in. So I'm gonna go into my CD and I name it test. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna open it in Visual Studio Code. So it's gonna be code space that, press enter, and okay, this is it. So now I can close this, and I'm gonna press Ctrl tilde, so I have my incorporated terminal here, so I don't have to use the other one. And as you can see, we have these folders that we saw in the previous video. Now we have the important one, is the source folder, and precisely the app.js. So this is pretty much what is going to be running. If you go to package.json, we have a script. So if we type npm star, and star is because the name of the script is start. If we do that, it's gonna open our React file and port 3000, as you can see right here. So it's working. Let me see. Okay, so everything is fine, but now we're gonna be focusing on this file and the app.js file inside of the source folder. So that is that up to this point. And Keeping a button's rendering logic and markup together ensures that they stay in sync with each other on every edit. Conversely, details that are unrelated, such as buttons markup and a sidebar markup, are isolated from each other, making it safer to change either of them on their own. Each React component is a JavaScript function, so that is an important one. Each React component is a JavaScript function that may contain some markup that React renders into the browser. React components use a syntax extension called JSX to represent that markup. JSX looks a lot like HTML, but it is a bit stricter and can display dynamic information. The best way to understand this is to convert some HTML markup to JSX markup. So they give us a note here. JSX and React are two separate things that are often used together, but you can use them independently of each other. JSX is a syntax extension, while React is a JavaScript library. You can keep that in mind. React is a library and JSX is a syntax extension. For example, this app.js, I can pretty much chain it to JSX. I would just do add an X to the extension. Now it's app.jsx, so I change my file. If we can go to our localhost 3000, it's still working, so I just named the extension from .js to .jsx. So that is that. Now, converting HTML to JSX. Suppose that you have some perfectly valid HTML. So this one is a valid HTML file. You have your heading 1, your image, your another list, and your list items. And you want to put it into your component. In order to put this file into your component, you have to export the full function, the name of the function, curly braces, return, parentheses, and then and here in this forward slash is where would you put your HTML file. But if you just copy it like this and you paste it, it's not gonna work. If you copy and paste it like as it is, it will not work. So they're giving us here this example. They already copy and pasted, so I'm gonna copy and paste it, and I'm gonna go to app.js file. Well, let's just get it back to JS like that. And now I'm gonna let's just comment it. So in order to comment it, what we are gonna do is, in order to comment JavaScript file, is / and then your asterisk, and at the end asterisk, and then /. So below that is where would you save the lines of code that we just copied from here. It's now working. As you can see, it's giving us a bunch of errors, and as you can see, pretty much if we read through these errors, we can figure out, let's see, a JSON JSX element must be wrapped in an enclosing tag. Did you want a JSX fragment? Okay, so inside of the return, let's just get rid of this comment too, and let me see, inside of the return we're gonna have a fragment tag like this, or you can put also a div, but let's just keep it simple with an empty fragment. Let's just grab these lines of code like that, and those lines of code is gonna go inside of this empty fragment tag. Okay, so what else they don't like it. So expected corresponding JSX closing tags for the list items. Okay, so now they want closing tags. So the H1 has a closing tag, the image doesn't have a closing tag, for example. So I'm gonna put a / at the end. And what else do we have? So another list, we have this li here, so I'm closing it, and I'm gonna close the following like this. I'm gonna save it, and now it's working. If I go to my website, and I refresh it, okay, so this is what it should look like. Let me see. And pretty much what we did is just following the steps. We went to our React and they given us some error messages, so we just follow and we were able to figure out. This is because JSX is stricter and has a few more rules than HTML. If you read the error messages above, they'll guide you to fix the markup, or you can follow the guide below as we did. So most of the time React's on screen error messages will help you find where the problem is. Give them a read if you get stuck. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So you just read it and try to figure out your code. But this is the rules of JSX. 1. Return a single root element. To return multiple elements from a component, wrap them with a single parent tag. For example, you can use a div, so you can use all those lines of code inside of the div, or if you don't want to add an extra div to your markup, you can write fragment tags or angle bracket tags like this, like we did here. I use fragment tags like that. What else we have here? This empty tag is called fragment. Fragments lets you group things without leaving any trace in the browser HTML tree. So for example, this, okay, let's save it, and we can rename it and the extension, and now it's gonna be app.jsx. So let's see if it's still working. Okay, it's still working. So now it's not a JavaScript file, it's a .js file, so because it has that extension. So now we have, why do multiple JSX tags need to be wrapped? Okay, JSX looks like HTML, but under the hood it is transformed into plain JavaScript objects. You cannot return two objects from a function without wrapping them into an array. This explains why you also cannot return two JSX tags without wrapping them into another tag or a fragment. Close all tags. So this is number 2. Number 1, you have to put your code inside of angle brackets or fragment tags. Number 2, close all the tags. As you can see, we close the image tag, just adding the /, and then we close the list item, doing the angle brackets / and the list item. So we did that. JSX requires tags to be explicitly closed. Self-closing tags like image must be image / and wrapping tags like list items oranges, for example, must be written as list item oranges, and then you close it with angle bracket / list item. This is how the list and the image should look like. So we have our fragment tags, we have our image and it's closed, we have our another list is closed, list item and it's closed. And 3, camel case. Most of the things JSX turns into JavaScript, and attributes written in JSX become keys of JavaScript objects. In your own component, you will often want to read those attributes into variables, but JavaScript has limitations on variable names. For example, their names cannot contain dashes or be reserved words like the class. Oh, okay, so here, for example, it shouldn't be class but class name with camel notation. Okay, because why? Because JavaScript has limitations on variable names. That is why in React many HTML and SVG attributes are written in camel case. For example, instead of stroke-width, you use stroke width with the first letter of the second word in capital letter. Since class is a reserved word in React, you write class name instead, as we did here. So instead of class, just class name with camel notation. What else do we have? Name after the corresponding DOM property, and you have this link if you want to read it. So it's sending you to the developer.mozilla. So here you have the image is closing here. You can find all these attributes in the list of the DOM component props. If you get one wrong, don't worry, React will print a message with a possible correction to the browser console. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So if you made a mistake, for example, let's say, again, let's just take this / here and let's save it. And I go to our React, so it's gonna give me pretty much unterminated JSX content. So what's happening? Okay, so it's expecting for a forward slash here, so it's telling you what is the problem. There is a syntax. So if we put the forward slash here, we're closing that image. Okay, it's working again. So that is that. What else do we have here? Pro tip: use a JSX converted. Okay, converting all attributes in existing markup can be tedious. We recommend using a converted, and they're giving us this website, so you can use that one. I'm gonna put it in the link below. To translate your existing HTML and SVG to JSX, converters are very useful in practice, but it's still worth understanding what's going on so that you can comfortably write JSX on your own. And finally, they're giving us this example. Let me see. Let's just grab it and let's paste it in our app.js file. Let me see. What happened here? Let's just. Okay. What happened? Click name. So it's working. So I didn't grab it here. Oh, here is your final result. So this is how it should look like. Okay. Yeah. So here you can check out the code, the export the full function, and that is exactly how we did it. So now the recap. Now you know why JSX exists and how to use it and its components. React components groups rendering logic together with markup because they are related. JSX is similar to HTML with a few differences. You can write or you can use a converter if you need to. So this is the converter, and as you can see, pretty much this is HTML, it's converted to JSX. So this whole code is inside of empty fragments. And what else do we have? The code is inside of curly braces, as you can see it here. So you can use that if you feel comfortable. Error messages will often point you in the right direction to fixing your markup. And now they're giving us some challenge here, so we can grab this piece of code, and let's paste it here and to fix it, to see what's going on, what's wrong with this piece of code, what is not working. So if I go to my React, it's giving us a bunch of errors, and you can read that. So adjacent JSX element must be wrapped in closing tags. So okay, it's giving me that hint that I need to enclose it. So I'm gonna do it. I can do it in a div, for example. I can do it in a div, and I can just grab this piece of code and paste it right here, save it, and okay, so okay, it's gonna be like that. So what else do we have here? This is still not working. We have the okay, so for example, we need to close the VR, and we do that with the /here, /here. We have pictures, and this picture, it has to be an eye here, it has to close it. Then we have the B element, and we have to close it here with another B element. So we save it, and now it's working. So as you can see, also we have the class. Instead of class, remember, we need to use camel notation, so that will be class name. So we put it inside of a div or an empty fragment. I can just delete that div, and now it's an empty fragment, and it's still working. We need to close all the tags, so we close the I tag, the I tag. So we started with I, we close it with a /. We started the B element, we close it with the /B, and we make sure that use camel notation from class to class name. And if we go to our website, so this is how it should look like. Welcome to my website. You can see my thoughts here. Okay, so yeah, this is pretty much an introduction to JSX. So as you can see, we are using the JSX extension here. You can use also the JavaScript extension.